Hello, and thank you for joining us for this week's edition of It's Your City. I'm your host, Cortney Bloomer, and today's show is brought to you by Red Wagon Network, bringing together businesses and individuals in Northern Nevada to help meet the needs in our community. Business owners who are interested in participating in Red Wagon Network can contact them to take part in their upcoming scavenger hunt. Our guest on this week's show is Mark Salinas, the new Arts and Culture Coordinator for the City of Carson City. Welcome, Mark.
Hello, Courtney. Thank you.
So nice to have you here. You've been in Carson City now for a few months on the job. Tell us a little bit about what the Arts and Culture Coordinator does.
Well, this position was put together, it's been a long time coming. It's a brand new position. I'm running out of the Visitors Bureau. The Cultural Commission and the city's been working on trying to find how we can make this position available to manifest the master plan, which was recently introduced to the city. And the master plan for arts and culture, it's a 14-page document that lists about 24 local arts and culture organizations, and it's like a punch list. It's like a wish list of how we want to bring all these organizations together and how we kind of want to raise them to the next tier of success. And so my job is to come in as a brand new position and tackle this 14-page punch list. Yeah.
All right, lots to do, and you're well suited for it. We were chatting a little bit before we started the show. You come to us from New York, Queens,
Yeah.
and you wore a number of hats there related to arts and also community. Talk a little bit about that and how you feel that's going to influence your ability to get this stuff done.
Sure. Back in New York, I was the owner of a design and fabrication business, so we provided everything from concept to production to installation of retail environments, costumes and props for TV, film, theater, marketing, advertising assets. I was also the founder of a non-for-profit mural organization out there called 7 Train Murals. I was on the community board in my neighborhood where I lived 19 years. I was on the Arts and Culture committee out there. But as I was discussing with you, it felt like everything was still quite fragmented. And I think I said to you, I don't mind wearing many hats, I just get irritated when I have to take one off. And so it felt very stop and go. And for about a year and a half, I was looking for the right fit, because it taking all those things and putting together wasn't simple to find. I saw the ad for this job here in Carson City, and it seemed to fit. It was a long list of requirements, and it seemed to fit the bill. And I came out here for my interview and met with several people at the BAC. I did a public presentation atop of the separate office interviews, and it was a great fit. I will tell you, the weather was a lot warmer when I was there. I think I was a little misinformed. I didn't knew nothing about Nevada fluctuation of cold weather. I thought it was just always warm all the time. But I am happy to be here, and I look forward to every day here in Carson City. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned a lot of different arts organizations in Carson City that you're going to be working with to kind of, rising tide lifts all boats, help everybody in Carson City to improve our quality of life. Talk a little bit about some of the interactions you've had with those organizations so far and what you're really hoping for.
Sure. I spent a lot of time these first 3.5 months doing a lot of meet and greets with, basically it's taking an inventory of our arts and cultural assets, and I've started with the organizations. This gives me an opportunity to make FaceTime with them, to listen to what they want, what they have, and where they want to go. That way, when I'm at my desk, I can sort of connect all the dots. The next step is to meet the individual artists. So you could say all these meet and greets are adding more colors to my palette to create a more interesting portrait of what Carson City is. So a lot of my time has been spent doing that. Another portion of my time working with the DA's office on creating the legalese for public art. I think when most people think of public art, they think of a large sculpture on a pedestal outdoors. And while that satisfies one definition of that, there are many other nuances in there. And this is everything from funding to location to coming up with advisory boards, so we get the community input, the Parks and Rec input, the Public Works input, to make so that the artwork is inviting not only for the visitors but for the people who live here. And then thirdly, researching and writing grants, which are based upon those meetings. So I've already submitted 3 grants these first 3.5 months, and these are for community programming. I want to approach Carson City, finding an event that we already have, finding an organization that we already have, bring in an abstract idea, a punch in the arm, so to speak, a little injection of adrenaline, and then taking that and then bringing in a new partner. I think I speak of art as basically the usual suspects: artists, galleries, and museums. And within that nucleus is strength, but I really want to, open up to the outer shell of the community, and that's the Hispanic community, the Native Americans, the seniors, the youth, small businesses. And I think once there's an osmosis with that really creates a diverse and enthusiastic community that's proud of their arts and culture. So these grants that I'm writing kind of map that out.
I'm looking forward to it. I think there are a lot of opportunities, and I like what you hit on there with really tying the art into the larger fabric of the community.
Yeah.
Bringing in, like you said, Parks and Rec and Public Works and public comment and involving the community in it, because I think a lot of times people do think of art as that middle piece, the museums and the galleries, and that's kind of inaccessible to a lot of people.
We were at the high school, we were at Carson High School at one of their leadership classes, a Shark Tank sort of environment for the class, and I said, by show of hands, tell me what comes to mind when you think of art. And so hands were raised, and a lot of students said, I think of a framed painting on the wall. That was sort of the majority. Right. And I think if I asked adults, it would be the same thing. And again, that's not a wrong definition, but that's not the only definition. So, when we turn on the television, we see shows about who can dance and who can sing and who can make a dress in an hour and who can do a window. And I've even seen who can cook, So on a day-to-day basis, I think we as a society are immersed in arts and culture, visual arts, culinary arts, performing arts.
But we don't recognize.
We don't recognize it. I mean, arts and culture has always tried to fight to prove its existence, it seems. My intent is to really open up the doors and show everyone how universal it is. When we look around us, everything has been created, designed, and we're consumers of that. So, I mean, that's an interesting thing to see just on a daily basis, just what exactly is around us. So going forward in Carson City, I will try to, bring a new soft focus, into our creative landscape that way.
All right, very exciting. Now let's talk about an event that's coming up.
Yes.
We mentioned at the beginning that you are from New York, and you came here to Carson City. When people think of fashion, they think a lot more of New York than they think of Carson City.
I think ooh la la.
Exactly, but we're bringing fashion to Carson on Fridays in February. Talk a little bit about this.
Here in Carson City. My background is in sculpture. I went to art school for a sculpture degree, and I followed that up with a fashion degree at Parsons School of Design, and I studied tailoring in London at Central St. Martin's. Then ended up, painting murals in New York. But, in meeting with the community, I met with the museum, and it was on my radar that just last night they had a lecture, The History of Undergarments. And there was about 100 people there at the museum last night. About a month or two ago, I was speaking to Jan, the curator there, and I said, wow, I was like, looking at the calendar, that's New York Fashion Week. I used to work in that industry. I used to be a pattern maker for Zach Posen, who's one of the judges on Project Runway. So right. My job was to take two-dimensional sketches and make them three-dimensional. And I said, Jan, we should put our heads together on something. So the idea was, and in meeting with the community, they're wanting sophisticated entertainment. So I curated 3 fashion film documentaries. So it's being advertised as Fashion Films in February. The first 3 Fridays in February at the museum. Museum members are free, otherwise it's $8. The first film speaks about a menswear designer being hired by one of 2 remaining couture French houses to create their women's line. And he's being inspired by museum paintings. So you can see the drama and the setup there. The second movie is about an 81-year-old Korean war vet who is the head street photographer for the New York Times. And he rides a Schwinn bicycle around New York City and has carte blanche status into any soiree, any social society. He sticks out like a sore thumb. He's a true proletariat at heart. I love him. And that's a great document about his life. The last one is another aspect of fashion, which is in the magazine and the publishing world. And if you've heard of the movie The Devil Wears Prada, this is the movie about the real editor-in-chief there at this magazine, and the behind the scenes, how these fashion scenes are set up, and models, and web design, and content, and photo shoots. So, among these 3 movies, I thought it kind of showed the universality of the workplace. And what I've been telling people is, whether you wear Wranglers or Yves Saint Laurent, there's going to be something in these films that's going to reach out to you. And, I'm someone who believes that everyone has the ability to make art, and I believe in inclusion. So I'm presenting these as I guess our first real idea that's come to fruition since I've been here. And the phone's been ringing off the hook all this morning. People have been coming in. It's limited ticketing, so February 3rd, 10th, and 17th. See, you know what? I was going to say I'll see you on the red carpet, but I forgot to mention that we're pulling out all the stops. We're going to have a 30-foot long red carpet, red stanchions. We're going to have an 8-foot by 8-foot step and repeat banner. I hired paparazzi to take your picture. It's going to be a full blown out experience. And Adele's has been kind enough to offer 15% off of your bill on the flip side of our canceled movie ticket. So I think it's going to be a good time.
It's going to be a fantastic time bringing a little bit of New York Fashion Week here to Carson City. Mark Salinas, thank you so much for coming and talking with us today. Looking forward to seeing what you can do here in Carson City and a great, vibrant art scene here in our community. So thank you so much for that. And thanks to all of you for joining us for this week's edition of It's Your City. I'm your host, Cortney Bloomer, and today's show was brought to you by Red Wagon Network. If you would like to participate in Red Wagon Network, find them on Facebook. If you're a business owner who's interested in sponsoring a future edition of It's Your City, please contact Darla at the address shown on your screen. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week.